5 years after the first allegations surfaced, the alleged ICICI Bank loan fraud case is back in the news, with the CBI arresting Videocon Group Chairman Venugopal Dhoot today. 2 days after the agency arrested ex-CEO and MD of ICICI Bank, Chanda Kochhar, and her husband Deepak. But what is the saga all about? Our Managing Editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke to independent banking analyst Hemindra Hazari regarding the same. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
What is at heart here? Because the lawyers for the Kochhars have been telling the court that there have been inquiries and probes, including perhaps the banking probe by ICICI itself, which had absolved them of any wrongdoing allegations. What is at heart? Because this is a private sector bank. What is at heart of these allegations?
Well, the heart is obviously that there's an alleged case of bribery here, that she used her good offices to basically, give funds to a corporate entity, and that there was allegedly a kickback which was given to her via her spouse. So that is very, that is the charge here. And see, one thing you got to note: the private sector operates really with very little accountability for senior officers at the top, and this is particularly in the financial services, as we have seen in the case of Rana Kapoor and ILFS, where both Rana Kapoor at Yes Bank and Mr. Ravi Parthasarathy at ILFS, they virtually ran their own kingdom with no accountability to their board of directors. While in a PSU bank, you have the CVC, there is independent checks and balances. While in the private sector, typically what happens is, even when you have found very senior officials uh, guilty of their own, of corruption, they're very quietly removed and no publicity is given at all, which is not the case in the PSU bank, because in the PSU banks, the CBI is instantly called in and the publicity is given. So the private sector, by and large, operates with very little accountability for its senior officials. And we have seen this very clearly in ICICI Bank, because the board of directors, then led by Mr. M.K. Sharma, who was the former legal head of Unilever, he steadfastly defended Chanda Kochhar's conduct till it became untenable, because by that time, the press had got this news and there was daily coverage. If you see the way the board of ICICI Bank conducted themselves, showed extremely poor corporate governance standards, because they kept defending her. Even they had hired an internal review by, I think, Dr. Mangaldas Shroff, which had totally exonerated her. It was only when the Sri Krishna report came in that all this evidence came and the board finally decided to send her on leave and subsequently sacked her. And at that point in time, Amarchand Mangaldas and Shroff retracted their report, which is unheard of. So it tells you how the private sector really operates. There is all a cozy club. There is no accountability. And this is an outstanding example of that. Because everyone, once the Sri Krishna report came out, they all decided, yes, now is the time to act. But it was the evidence, was quite self-evidently those who have some idea of finance.
Mr. Hazari, you make a very important point about the cozy club, and it's been called phone banking also during the UPA era. When you talk about this cozy club, the obvious question that everyone wants to know is, what about the others? There have been several cases and a mountain of bad debts which is still being cleaned up, not just in the public sector, but to some extent in the private sector as well. Have things changed as far as this cozy club is concerned?
You see, the cozy club was being really made to ridicule public sector bankers, and they deserve some of that ridicule, because they were doing phone banking, taking oral instructions from politicians and the bureaucrats. In the private sector, it operates in a slightly different form. The CEO takes his oral instructions from anyone, as we can see, because they are all colluding. We have seen this in the case of Rana Kapoor, which brought down Yes Bank. But apparently, that was also the case in ILFS, which brought down ILFS, and it created a huge impact on the financial sector. In the private sector, we all say there is a board of directors and they're full of eminent people, and they will serve as a cross, check and balance against very aggressive or corrupt CEOs. But sadly, that is not the way it operates in this world. Because independent directors, they feel beholden to either the senior executive who has selected them or to the promoter where there is a promoter. So they do not, in most cases, exercise any kind of independence. And basically, they collude with the CEO or with the promoter. And if anything goes wrong, their defense invariably is that we did not know. But what is actually happening is, in such cases, they deliberately don't want to know. That is, even if some evidence does come up, they will look away or they will exonerate the CEO straight away. And we have seen this exactly play out in Chanda Kochhar's case in ICICI Bank, where the board totally cleared her of any wrongdoings. You had even Mr. N. Vagul, who was retired, was doing the rounds of all the business studios defending Chanda Kochhar's contract. When he had to get business to come out, he has retired. What was the point of him coming there trying to defend Chanda Kochhar and saying how honest she was? So the whole ecosystem, as you see in ICICI Bank's case, was actually protecting Chanda Kochhar.
Uh, Mr. Hazari, what are the larger implications of this arrest? Because while we have discussed what happened in the past and what should have perhaps been done better when it comes to corporate governance and board level supervision as well, what are the larger implications from this arrest?
See, one is that everyone thought that she had gotten away scot-free because no arrest of her had happened. So one is that the big story is, why has the CBI arrested her now, and why had they not arrested her early? What has changed now? 5 years after the story first came into the news, that has taken them so long to arrest her. Obviously, something has changed, but the public really do not know what exactly has changed that has made them arrest her. A lot of this information was available also after this news broke. The second is that what exactly happens to such people, because we have seen, sadly, the conviction track record of both the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate is abysmally poor. Like, most of the people they arrest, they seem to be unable to convict. That means they do not make a very strong case when the case goes to the courts. Now we have to see whether this case will also fall apart like many of the others do, or does it actually go ahead for a conviction? She has
Mr.
been
Haz-
judged by people and even by corporate India, and that is why nobody has even hired her as an independent director after she left ICICI Bank or was sacked by ICICI Bank.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.